Hello and welcome one and all to the 2015 NASCAR Season End Awards, now with 100% more generic templates. I did this in my car last year. I decided to be organized this time around. Hooray, let's get going. So these are just awards that I am going to give out for the performances that I deem to be notable. So why don't we just start right off the bat with everyone's favorite award, Worst Race of the Year. There are plenty of races to choose from, so we'll just have to list them all here. Daytona 500, boring ass race, horrible fucking outcome, and everything that could have gone wrong went wrong in that race, so why wouldn't it be a contender for this? Phoenix the Rain 500 that was just completed. A race that is determining the champion, basically, is just going to get rained out after a 7-hour rain delay to begin with. Wow. What a thrilling conclusion to the round 3 that had been built up with such anticipation. Michigan, the Quicken Loans 400. A race that was also pelted by rain endlessly, where we didn't even get a long enough green flag run to determine if the race could have been good in the first place. What a thrilling event that was. And of course, the other Michigan race, the Pure Michigan 400, which was just so simply the most atrocious race, probably of all time, ever, anywhere. A clear-cut dominant car. No one could come up next to him throughout the entire race, except for Austin at one point. But after that, it was just... Whew. What a fucking terrible race. And of course, Talladega, the Clusterfuck 500, will go down as one of the most infamous races of all time. But who is the winner, you may ask? Well, that is the Quicken Loans 400. That race embodies everything that I despise about a race. An outcome that sucked. Not an outcome that sucked, but an ending that sucked. And you didn't even get to see any racing at all. I mean, like, the Rain 500, we at least got to see some fucking racing. With the Quicken Loans 400, we didn't get to see jack fucking shit. Got like 40 laps of green in a row, and that's the most, and that was just so fucking terrible. So yep, and even though it was won by Kurt Busch, it still sucked fucking dick, and that's the worst race of the year. But let's stop with the negativity. Why don't we talk about the best race of the year? How about that STP 500? It was the first good race of the year. It took all the way until Martinsville for there to be a decent fucking race. What is this? But with leaders that fluctuated over the race, actual strategy, green flag runs, and an ending much to be desired, which we will talk about later, the Martinsville race, STP 500, was spectacular. Kentucky, the Quaker State 400. Our first taste of the low downforce package that we are going to be blessed with next season, and it was amazing. I don't even care that Kyle Busch won. That race was fantastical. Same goes for the Southern 500. But why is the Southern 500 5 times better than the Quaker State 400? Well, that's because it was the throwback weekend. They had Ken goddamn Squire and Ned Jarrett in the booth. Everything was excellent about this race, except for the ending. If they just let it go green, that would have been so magnificent, but no. And of course, Martinsville, the Goodies 500. Who didn't enjoy that race, is my question. But as for the best of them all, obviously the Southern 500, no competition. That was the best race that we're probably going to see for a very long time, even with the low downforce package being enacted next season. Best Xfinity race of the year. I didn't really get many of these because the Xfinity series sucks dick. But in any case, Daytona. A come and go race, you know? a fluctuating leader, all sorts of crazy stuff going on, coming down to a final last lap pass under what could have possibly been a caution finish, but did not become a caution finish. And we got to see a first-time winner and probably only-time winner in that race, and that was pretty darn neat. So, of course, next one, Mid-Ohio. Simply a phantasmical race all around, and absolutely coming down to the last second was great. It was a competitive race, competition going on, drivers coming and going, you know, all the good stuff. And of course, Iowa, because for fuck's sake, it's the Xfinity Series at Iowa. No Cup drivers, virtually. Great racing, simply irresistible kind of stuff. But what is the best? It's Mid-Ohio, of course. Regan Smith getting his first win in a fucking year and a half or so. I think it actually was a year and a half, actually, but yeah, Mid-Ohio was great. Truck Race of the Year. Chicagoland. I didn't get to see any of this race, but its finish was fantastic. Way to stick it to the goddamn Cup guys, John Hunter. Looking forward to your career. Eldora, must I say any more? I mean, even if this was a generic race at Eldora, it probably would have been in the competition for this award. But hot damn, Christopher Bell and Bobby Pierce. That was so good. That was so great. Canadian Tire. Also a come-and-go truck race. An infamous finish, though, so we'll just move on from there. And, of course, Las Vegas. Who better than John West Townley? Who better? But who's the winner is what you may be asking. Well, was there even any question? Kyle Busch Moment of the Year. Remember, this isn't limited to Kyle Busch. It's just if another driver acts like Kyle Busch in a certain situation, they could be put up for nomination for this award. But in any case, Daytona injury. The biggest debacle of the year apart from, you know, must-win situations. But yeah, Daytona injury. That was unexpected, wasn't it? Response to Brad Keselowski before he came back to racing. That was very Kyle Bushy. Gordon spins Reagan at Auto Club for absolutely no reason, and has no remorse in doing so, which resulted in David Reagan getting a shitty-ass finish in a Joe Gibbs car. Ironically, Kyle Busch's. And of course, Logano wins trucks at Martinsville, a race you shouldn't even be in the first place. Beating guys who should be competing against each other for the win, rather than just a Brad Keselowski truck running away with the finish with a Cup driver. That was just the embodiment of a Kyle Busch moment, that entire finish. Wins his first Xfinity race back, and virtually all the other ones that he's competed in this year, because that's just what Kyle Busch does. He races in the Xfinity Series because he can't win in the Sprint Cup Series, so he feels better for himself by winning all the Xfinity races, you know? Except not this year. He got 3 wins in a row. So yeah, not this year, in any case, but yeah. 3 wins in a row by anyone, even with these shitty-ass fucking cars, is still pretty impressive. But, Andy Crass Crusade, the most recent, well, not most recent, but the most recent debacle of his, trying to get tracks to go with no grass, and I think he's actually succeeding in that way. And of course, making it to the Final Four is, well, this is his first opportunity this is the furthest he's ever gotten in the chase, so that's a big Kyle Busch moment. But are any of these able to stack up against the fact that he won 3 races in a row? Even everything else, Kyle Busch doing it himself, you know. That's just how that is. Another fan favorite, the worst finish of the year. Daytona 500, ending under caution when it could have very well not ended under caution. You want to know a race that didn't end under caution? at a super speedway, that would be Talladega in 2001. Bobby Labonte flipped on the backstretch and they still didn't call a caution. I don't want to hear any goddamn excuses from NASCAR doing anything about safety when it comes to ending races under caution. If Bobby Labonte can fucking flip, for God's sake, you can finish a goddamn race. Talladega, Geico 500, 0 people going for the win for a freight train of the final 25 laps, resulting in one of the most boring fucking finishes in the history of the sport. Auto Club 400, Kurt Busch gets fucked up the ass, as always. Quicken Loans 400, Kurt Busch does not get fucked up the ass, but everyone watching the race that paid for it did. Talladega, the Clusterfuck 500, everything going to shit at once. In fact, twice, actually. But yeah, everything that's wrong about NASCAR would be the final restart. The final 2 restarts that come together as one at Talladega in the Clusterfuck 500. And if you've been keeping track, I despise rained-out finishes more than anything. So, of course, Phoenix has to be on that list. But which is the worst finish of the year, you may ask? You might be surprised. Nah, you're not surprised at all. That's just the worst. The worst. How about the best finish of the year? Martinsville STP 500, 2 drivers duking it out with each other, and neither of them wrecked, surprisingly. Even though, Denny Hamlin was throwing all sorts of blocks, but he still didn't get wrecked in the end. What do you know? Steve Burns 500, way to finish out the race, NASCAR, Rain came in, and they still held the cars on the track and cleaned it up just to get 3 or so laps at Bristol. They stuck it out, and they went the distance, man. They went the distance. Pocono Exalta 400, of course. What's better than Martin Truex Jr. winning a race? And of course, Texas AAA 500, just like the STP 500. What's with all these goddamn acronyms being great races? Same reason as Martinsville. But, which one's the best of them all? The Steve Burns 500. This is an example of what NASCAR should do when there's rain in the area. Thank you very much. Comeback of the year. Kurt Busch comes back from being suspended, wins 2 races, and get fuck at Phoenix to not advance in the Sprint Cup Series. Chase for the Cup. But Kyle Busch coming back from an injury to win 3 races in a row, 4 out of 5 races, and make it to the Final 4. What about Martin Truex Jr., who had a shitty fucking 2014 season, and I still fucking was there for him the entire time, bitches. But, I believed in him the entire time, motherfucker. I'm sorry. Truex comes back, wins a race, in the chase, Final 4, after an abysmal 2014 season. What a comeback. But how about Jeff Gordon having a shitty 2015 only to win at Martinsville and go to the Final 4? You know what? This probably should have been our Final 4 to begin with, but which one had the best comeback? Obviously Martin Truex Jr. Just kidding. Kyle Busch had a better comeback. Wreck of the year, Kyle Busch at Daytona. Injury, all that good stuff that we talked about for the entirety of the first half of the season. Austin flipping at Daytona. What an incredible accident that was. Logano at Martinsville. Well, that was definitely the best wreck of the year. But Harvick at Talladega was definitely the worst. But which one was the overall wreck of the year, you may ask? The Martinsville wreck. Just the implications and the greatness that ensued. Talladega was a clusterfuck, but Martinsville was simply irresistible. So, Rookie of the Year. You may be wondering why there are so many names on this list. Well, I do my Rookie of the Year different than NASCAR does. I do my rookie of the year based off of how all those rookie drivers were performing over the course of their year, as opposed to just points and all that shit. So, how about that Chase Elliott coming in, doing decent, I guess? Chris Buescher comes in. I only listed Chase Elliott because people would yell at me if I didn't, okay? Chase Elliott had probably hardly anything to be impressed by in the races that he did enter, but we still have a whole season to see what he can do. Chris Buescher comes into the 34 of Front Row Motorsports, a team worse than Roush, and Roush sucks dick, and gets it a top 25 finish at Fontana. Now that's a nice shit. And he still does moderately decent in the other races that he did. Jeb Burton, somehow trying to keep his career alive, goes to BK, and really underperforms. I forgot to name a driver here. I thought I had him listed, but I don't. Matt DiBenedetto, he had a way better season than Jeb Burton, and he didn't even participate Matt participated in less races than Jeb. Come on, man, come on. Brett Moffitt getting a top 10 in his, 7th career start? I don't give a shit what you say, that's impressive. And then he was relegated to Front Row Motorsports and couldn't do shit. But you know. Ryan Blaney driving the 21 occasionally. With weather permitting, he drove the 21. And I've got to say, he impressed a whole hell of a lot more than most of these guys. Eric Jones, he participated in 4 races, and all of which I was impressed by. He was able to quickly adapt and learn at Bristol. He was quickly able to get in the top 5 at Charlotte, was it? It was somewhere, but he crashed, so that doesn't make any difference. And then in the 2 starts that he had organized with the 20 car were still pretty good. So Eric Jones, prime candidate for Rookie of this year. And Ryan Preece, going into a PMS car, except the first start that he had was a Tommy Baldwin one. But managing to not absolutely suck innumerable assholes in a PMS car, kind of. Occasionally. Okay, he only really did good in the TBR car, but point is, the winner's Ryan Blaney. He did the most this year and impressed the most. Screwjob of the year. Kurt Busch misses start of the season for absolutely no reason at all. Truex doesn't win the Bud Shootout. Harvick wrecks the field at Talladega, and Curtis called at Phoenix, but not Logano. Refer to my race review for an explanation on that. Which was the biggest screwjob of the year, you may ask? Obviously, Kurt Busch missing the start of the season. There was absolutely no goddamn reason for that. But it still happened. Caution of the year. Auto Club 400, costing Kurt Busch the win virtually. Phoenix, the Rain 500, where we paced for 10 hours when it could have been started. But no, it wasn't. New Hampshire, 5-hour energy 301. You may be wondering what this was all about. Well, this was a caution that occurred right after Kyle Busch got past the leader after some green flag pit stops. And he was able to keep his position on the lead lap and go on to win. Road America Xfinity, the endless caution, almost as bad as the Rain 500, and some would even say more bad. Is it more bad? Yes, it is more bad. That was the worst caution of all time. Not gonna lie. Pathetic performance of the year, which was the worst team of them all. Roush Racing being simply pathetic. Richard Childress Racing being even slower than last year, even slower than their goddamn than the team that they're giving their parts to. PMS for being PMS, and BK Racing for simply being BK Racing, which was the worst performance of the year. Obviously Roush, that was so terrible. But which was the best team of the year, you may ask? Stewart Haas Racing having 2 championship caliber drivers. Well, 3, but 2 championship caliber cars. We're gonna say Furniture Row for being the one goddamn team in the entire world to be able to compete against Sprint Cup teams. Joe Gibbs Racing for having an unreal summer, to say the least. Or Hendrick for being Hendrick and somehow coming back at the end of the season here. Obviously, the team of the year is Joe Gibbs Racing. No competition at all. And who is the Sprint Sponsor of the Year award? This one goes to the most prominent sponsors in NASCAR. DraftKings, KFC, Geico, Sonic, and Harvoni were the most prevalent the entire year. But is this even a question? And our final award is the most missed award. These are awards that were retired due to one reason or another. Incredible moment of the year, no longer available due to TNT's coverage stopping and Kyle Petty no longer live commentating races. Dana Crash of the year, too many to choose, only one. I'd say the Gilliland one probably would have been the winner, but there were so many. But the winner was the Incredible Award. I certainly do miss hearing "that's incredible" being stated after every other noun in a sentence. So, and that is our 2015. I'm trying to sling this onto something here. Hang on. Fuck's sake. There, sling it there. There we go. Okay. That is our 2015 NASCAR Season End Awards. If you don't like who I gave the award to, you can go fuck yourself, and I will see you in the next video I make. Bye!